Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Luminosity Makes Moves. This event is a super major that is happening this weekend in America, and all of NA's top talent is showing up. Pretty much all of NA's top talent except for the Steve players, because this is a Steve-manned event, and it is also a Watch the Throne qualifier. And for our top 16 seeds, you're going to have Nao, Shattuck, Aaron, and Anathema in 13th, Meister, Riddles, Karama, and Big D in 9th. In 7th, you're going to have The Buzz and MKLeo. 5th is Zomba and Mutes. 4th is Light. 3rd is Sonics. 2nd is Tweek, and projected to win the entire thing is Spargo. And I want to get this out of the way right now. I think the player that is likely going to qualify for Watch the Throne is going to be Sonics. Not only is the highest seeded player out of all the people that aren't qualified yet, but out of all the people that aren't qualified that I think have a chance to qualify, Sonics has amazing head-to-heads versus a majority of those players. So if it comes down to whoever wins the set is going to get into Watch the Throne and Sonics is in that set, he's probably going to win it. Now, we're going to be looking at the bracket as per usual, but there are two players that I have to highlight right off the bat, because this tournament is going to be the grand return of not only Quid, but also Cola. We haven't seen Cola at a major event since Battle of BC, and before that, I think it was like Genesis, and we haven't seen Quid at a major event since Collision. The last time he went to an even big event was Hi-Rez, which he did win, and when we're taking a look at its bracket, it's not amazing, to be honest. The first opponent that he's supposed to play once he gets into the top 64 is going to be Karama. Now, I would say that Mario Pokemon Trainer is even, and Quid does have to play Tavares for this, who's one of the best Marios in America, so clearly if he gets to this point in the bracket, he's going to show he's at least decent at the matchup. Now, I'm not going to give guaranteed odds that Quid is going to win that, but I definitely think it is a doable matchup for him, just like I think beating MKLeo is doable. They've only played one time, and Leo did win that, but it was at Collision, which was almost 2 years ago now, which makes me feel low just saying. And Leo has not been in the best form as of late, but we really just don't know what Quid's form is going to be like. I really do think that Quid is good enough to beat players like Karama, Leo, even Spargo. I think Quid is insane, but we're just going to have to wait and see. And speaking of form, I have no idea what form Cola is going to be, and his first opponent is going to be up against Big D in the top 64, and they have never played before, which I would definitely give the advantage there to Big D, just because you've never played an Ice Climber of his caliber. It's scary, but on paper, Cola's characters do fairly well. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Cola didn't play Roy. Maybe he tried Cloud, maybe he tried Ice Climbers. I could even see the Aegis coming out, because all of those matchups are just unwinnable for Ice Climbers. They are incredibly difficult. Roy is not like a bad matchup by any means. I'd even say that Roy still wins, but he has other characters that are better, so it's going to be interesting to see what he chooses right there. And then you're going to have potentially Cola versus Zomba, and historically, Cola's been very good in that matchup. He has a 7-2 record, and it has been a little bit since they played. You have to go all the way back to Cirque to CFL, not even the second one that happened recently, so maybe that information isn't super useful, but based off previous sets, you would favor Cola to win that one, and then you would go to Light, and that's more of a toss-up. But again, I think it is doable. I believe that Quid and Cola can both get into the top 8. Are they going to necessarily? Well, it's just going to really come down to how is their form. But now let's actually just take a look at the bracket. For our first top 8 qualifier, Spargo is going to be your top seed, and then you're going to have Omega, Shattuck, Tilde, MKLeo, Jen, Karama, and Quid. Likely you're going to have these players. Of course, there are a couple upsets that could happen, but going off the projected seeding for Spargo, Omega, I would definitely favor Spargo going into that matchup, considering that the last time he played Leo Joker, he beat it pretty handily, if I recall correctly. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I know he did come out on top, and I would expect him to do so there. Then you're going to have Shattuck, Tilde. Now, these two players have never played before, and Shattuck has been probably the best he's ever been, I would argue. Like, he has been really, really strong, but Tilde is kind of a dark horse like Quid and Cola. The last time Tilde was at a major, he got 3rd, and it was gone. Well, now, to be fair, his bracket was extremely scuffed, and I think he only beat like one top 50 player, but still, an impressive run. He is an incredible player with an extremely high ceiling, so I could definitely see that set going Tilde's way, but assuming that Shattuck does win that, then you're going to have Spargo Shattuck, and this is a pretty interesting one, because the last time Spargo played a really good Corn player, it was Lai at SmashCon, and he ended up dropping that set. Now, to be fair, I don't think Spargo was playing particularly well at that event, considering that he got 65th, so maybe that doesn't really mean anything, but it's a little bit scary to have Shattuck in your path until I also think is good enough to beat Spargo. He is just such an explosive player. So Spargo, his bracket is definitely a little bit scary, and then if you switch to the other side, you're going to have MKLeo and Jen. Now, sorry, my mic cut out there, but basically all I said that Jen is insanely good at this game, and I do think he is good enough to beat a player of MKLeo's caliber, but also Leo has so many reps versus Chag, and a majority of those reps are going to be going his way. So I would definitely expect him to take that set. Now, there is, of course, the situation. Maybe he used to one style of Palutena, the other style of Palutena throws him off. But there's also kind of the thing of like, okay, for most characters, I can see it. But Palutena, most Palu players are going to be playing extremely similar just because the character is fairly linear. So even if Jen does have some crazy mix-ups, I would still expect Leo to come out on top because he's probably still seen them before. Then you're going to have MK Leo versus Karama or Quid. I already touched on Quid, so I'm not going to talk about that. But for Leo Karama, this is an interesting one because Leo hasn't been doing super great versus Mario's lately, but also, Leo has never lost a run back to a Mario player, and Karama already beat Leo way back at Frostbite, so I'm going to say that Leo is still the favorite going into that set, and his characters also do well into Mario, aside from the Joker, which I would say is probably more of an even, but I think Leo's main focus this tournament is going to be Marth and Joker, which is very interesting, and then when you get Spargo Leo potentially in the winner's quarters, because I do think that Leo will beat Karama, I would definitely favor Spargo going into that one. I can't imagine that Spargo loses to the Marth, and that's no offense to Leo's Marth, it's just, I don't think Marth is very good, and I don't think Spargo would lose to that, and also the last time that they played, Spargo handled the Joker fairly well, so I'm going to pick Spargo to get to the winner's quarters, but I do want to double down on Quid being my wildcard. I really think that's a possibility. Top seed is going to be Light, and likely the bracket's going to involve Goblin, Neo, Apollo Kage, Zomba, MBD, Big D, and Cola. Now for Light Goblin, I would heavily favor Light going into the set. I don't believe Goblin has ever beaten him, so definitely Light's going to be the favorite there. Neo, Apollo Kage, this one's a little bit interesting. I definitely think that Apollo Kage can make this upset, and Neo, his results have been a little bit shaky as of late. He's been up, he's been down, but his peak is insane at 5th place at SmashCon, and you could also make the argument for Apollo Kage, who also had an incredible SmashCon, getting 9th place there, so I'm not super sure who's going to win this one. On paper, though, I would definitely have Snake winning versus Corrin, so I'm going to say that Apollo Kage can make that upset, but regardless of who wins it, I think Light would beat both these players. I think that Light is extremely good versus Fox. You kind of need to be, or rather good versus Snake. You kind of need to be at the top level at this point because he's such a prevalent character, and the big thing about Snake is how good are you with items, and a player of Light's caliber is extremely good with items, and I also just think that Fox does extremely well into Corrin, so I would favor him in both of those matchups. Then you're going to have Zomba versus MVD. Now, I will favor MVD for this one just because prior to this, I don't think Zomba's ever beaten MVD. I think the record is 3-0 or something. I'll correct that if it's wrong. So MVD is definitely the heavy favorite going into this one. Now, Zomba's form these last couple months has been undeniably insane. He's been like top 10 in the world, so it's not going to be as one-sided as the stats are, and Zomba might even still be the favorite, but based off their past history, I have to give it to MVD. Already talked about Big D and Cola, but I do think that Cola will make that upset, and Cola is very good versus Snake. I mean, he has a Snake, so his item play is going to be on peak, and he also knows how to abuse the character. If you know how to abuse Snake, his disadvantage is so bad. If you don't, it's actually pretty decent because you have so much options to move around, but if you're spacing on grenades like Snake players are able to do, Cola was a Snake player, he is going to have a very good time in the advantage state, so I'm going to say he takes that over MBD, and then we're going to get to Light and Cola, and I kind of already talked about this earlier. It's a coin flipping matchup, but because I've just seen more from Light as of late, I'm going to say that he takes it. Also, something to mention is that Goblin and Light have only played once 4 years ago, so it doesn't really matter that Goblin's ever beaten Light. I would still heavily favor Light going into it, but maybe not as bad as I made it out to be. Our next top seed is going to be Tweek, and he is in the same bracket path as Chunky Kong, Anathema, Tarek, DeBuzz, Peanut, Meister, and Yuno, who is Chase for anyone wondering. Now, Tweek, Chunky Kong, Tweek is going to be the heavy favorite going into this set. No offense to Chunky Kong, he is one of the most mechanically skilled players I have seen in this game. The amount of labbing he does and his item play is incredible, but it's Tweek versus Donkey Kong. Like, he should 100% be winning that matchup, so definitely going to be an uphill battle for Chunky Kong. Anathema, Tarek, this one's pretty interesting. I do think that Tarek can make the upset. Both these players have been pretty good. They both got a 5th place at Rise and Grind, but outside of that, I would say Tarek has overall been better. Besides that little slip at Big House, he has been exceptional in these past couple months, and I do think that Rob Greninja is an even matchup, and also Rob is way more common than Greninja, and because of all those reasons, I'm going to say that Tarek takes it. Then you're going to have DeBuzz versus Peanut. Now, I do think that DeBuzz will probably play mid Min Min for this one because Min Min is arguably Mega Man's worst matchup. And Rosalina does okay versus Mega Man. Like, she has a lot of tools to be able to deal with pellets. Luma's going to be taking a lot of stuff. She has the down B to get rid of projectiles, but Mega Man overall just has a really annoying game plan for her. So would it be super shocked if we saw the Dabuz Min Min come out and also Dabuz win that set? Meister, now this one is pretty interesting because Palutena I actually think does pretty good into Game Watch, but also Meister has so many reps versus Chag, and honestly, I don't even know if that's a valid argument because Game Watch and Palutena are both extremely popular characters at the top level. We've also seen Yuno being playing a little bit of Aegis lately, so that could definitely come out. Both characters are good into Game & Watch, but I just think that Meister is still going to eke this one out. I'm very high on Meister. I think he is a phenomenal player, so I wouldn't be shocked if Yuno won it just because the matchup is in his favor, and also he's insane, but I'm going to give Meister the benefit of the doubt and say that he takes that one. Then you're going to have Tweek versus Tarek. Now, I think Diddy Kong is pretty good into Greninja, and I honestly don't have a ton of information here because I am no Greninja expert, but I'm going to say that Tweek is able to top player through Tarek this time around with the Diddy Kong and be able to take that set. Dabuz Meister, Dabuz is going to win that one. Not going to really explain it more. Maybe this is the first time Meister pulls it off, but probably not. Then you're going to have Tweek versus Dabuz. They've only played one time in 2023, which is at Gama, and Tweek did end up taking that set, and because of that, I'm going to favorite him to take it here, but this is a really coin-flipping matchup for me. That set at Gama was incredibly close, and it was also in the loser's bracket, which just adds a ton more variables. So maybe in the winner's bracket, Dabuz has a little bit more confidence, or Tweek has a little bit less confidence, ends up taking it. We really don't know how it's going to unfold, but due to their prior history in 2023, which is one set, I'm going to say that Tweek takes it. And our final top seed is going to be Sonics, and likely in his path is going to be Dark Wizzy, Aaron MK Big Boss, Mudace Wrath, and Riddles Luis. Now, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch necessarily, but I would be shocked if Sonics did not make top 8 to the winner's side here. I think this side of the bracket is really strong for him. His first opponent is likely going to be Dark Wizzy. Now, this one could be a little bit weird because I've heard from the grapevine that they are training partners, at least they were training partners, and when people have played against each other a certain amount of times, it becomes a lot less character versus character, even a lot less skill versus skill, and more just player versus player. Yeah, you might be better than me, but if I read your jump 20 times in a row, it doesn't really matter, so maybe Wizzy could pull off the upset there, but I do think Sonic beats Mario, and also Sonic is top 5 in the world potentially, so I would expect him to win that one. Aaron, MK Big Boss, I'm going to say that Aaron takes it. He's just been really, really impressive in these past couple events, and I think that he does fairly well into Rob. You're going to have Mudace Wrath now. Like Meister versus Yuno, I'm going to give Mudace the benefit of the doubt, but this is an incredibly difficult matchup for Peach, and Wrath had an amazing performance at Big House. He really showcased what he can really pull off with this character. I think Wrath is still extremely underrated. That Big House run kind of put him on the map, and he's coming into this event with a lot of momentum. I wouldn't be shocked if he was able to upset Mudace, but Mudace is just so solid, so I'm going to pick him to win that one. Riddles Luis, now they've only played 2 times, and both of them were really long ago, 40 years ago. I believe the other one was also at Congo Saga, the kickoff event, so I really have no idea how this one's going to go. Sorry, might cut out again, but basically I was just saying that Luis is good enough to take out a player of Riddle's caliber, so I wouldn't be shocked if he was able to get the upset, and you shouldn't be either, but I'm still going to favor Riddles to win that one. Then you're going to have Sonics versus Aaron. I do think that Aaron has a chance versus Sonics. He also does have an Aegis, and Aegis is a decent pick into most Sonic players, but Sonics is incredible at that matchup, so he's likely just going to have to stay on the Diddy Kong, and I do favor Sonics in that matchup. And then you're going to have Mudace versus Riddles. Now, I'm going to say that Mudace takes this one. They haven't played in a little bit, but the last time they played, I believe it was Summit, and it did go Mudace's way, and he's also just an incredible player versus Kazuya because his evasion is so good, so I'm going to say he takes that. Then for Sonics, Mudace, I'm not going to give Mudace the same benefit of the doubt I gave him versus Wrath, because even though Wrath is incredible, Sonics is the peak Sonic player in this game, and I'm expecting him to make top 8. And y'all know the drill at this point. We're not looking at the losers bracket just because they're so insanely fickle that a lot of these matchups aren't even going to happen. And I've taken my 20 players that I think are most likely to top 8, and I've given them their percentages. You're going to have the confidence here with Sparkle, Light, Tweek, and Sonics. I know this is just the top 4 seeds of the event, but what can I say? They're all really good. You're going to have the somewhat confidence here with Zomba, Dabuz, Riddles, and Mudace. These are the players that I think are going to top 8 through the loser side. So I think these are going to be the players that are consisting of our top 8. You're going to have the could happens here with MK Leo, which feels extremely weird to have him in this tier, but again, you can only have 4 people here, and ultimately it came down between him and Riddles because they are projected to play. I know I said the losers bracket doesn't matter, but I think Mudace is going to beat Riddles, and then I think Leo's going to lose to Spargo, so this matchup is likely to happen, and if it does, I would favor Riddles in it, so that's why Leo's in this tier. Neo and Shattuck as well have been very very phenomenal. Shag's been on a little bit more of an upward trend, but now just has a higher peak. Easily could see them in the top 8. Meister, he's an incredible player that people just don't talk about because Mia exists, so I could easily see him in there. Big D, I will say it is pretty important for Big D depending on how good his bracket is, but even if his bracket is bad, he could still do it. As long as it's not miserable, ungodly, then maybe he can't get in there, but if he has a decent bracket, 1 or 2 winning matchups, you can give him an unwinnable, he doesn't mind. I could definitely see him in the top 8. You're going to have the question mark here with Cola and Quid. I just don't know the form these players are going to be in. If they're playing at their best, they will top 8. If they're not, they won't. Simple as that. You're going to have the perchance here with Apollo Kage, Luis, Tilde, Anathema, and Aaron. A couple of these players we've seen some incredible highs from before. A couple of these players we haven't really seen anything recently. Most notably Tilde because he just hasn't been going to events. But you have Anathema doing super well recently. You have Apollo Kage with some ups and downs. Same thing with Luis, and Aaron has overall just been extremely consistent. So if these guys are on an A day, I could easily see them in the top 8. And then finally, you're going to have Wrath. As I mentioned earlier on, I am still going to favor Mutes versus Wrath, but this is a very realistic upset. And then if he gets into Riddles, that's going to be Kazuya. And even though Riddles has beaten Sonics before, also it would probably be Terry, not Kazuya, but even though Riddles has beaten Sonics before, it's still not a super great draw. And then he would get to the Ditto where I would definitely favor Sonics, but at that point he's just 1 matchup away. So I could easily see Wrath top 8 in this event. And here we are, the top 8, just going to be doing the projected seeds as per usual. Our first one being Spargo versus Light. Now, this is one of the most coin flippy matchups in Smash Ultimate. It is incredibly hard to predict who is going to win it. It feels like these players are constantly trading sets. And because of that, I'm going to be going with Spargo, and that is all the logic that I will be using. But I do want to really quickly shout out Light for his edge guards versus Spargo. He was on top of him. One of the best players in the entire world I've seen at edgeguarding Cloud, and he's doing it with Fox. Maybe other people should start doing that. Maybe the character actually has a weakness, but that's a topic for another time. So Light, very impressive in that matchup, but the rules of the coin flip say that it is Spargo's turn to win it. Then you're going to have Tweek versus Sonics, and they haven't played in over a year, so it's kind of tough to tell how this is going to go. I'm going to give Sonics the win here just because I think his characters do well into Tweek, but Tweek is a very patient player. He can definitely match Sonics' tempo, but typically if you're camping, there's no one better in the world at camping than, Sonics. Now, luckily, in the loser side, it should be a little bit more predictable. You're going to have MKLeo versus Zomba and DeBuzz versus Mutes. Now, for Zomba, MKLeo, Zomba has won their last 2 encounters and also just been on fire these past couple months where Leo has kind of taken a step back. And because of all those reasons, I'm definitely going to favor Zomba going into this. I don't think it's impossible for Leo to win. I think Joker does pretty good into Rob, but Zomba's just shown some really, really strong stuff in that matchup and is overall looking pretty dominant in that head-to-head, at least for their last 2 encounters. You're going to have DeBuzz versus Mutes, and DeBuzz has a really good record versus Mutes. I think historically it's 6-2 in this game, and their last encounter I do know is at Tokyo Smash Bootcamp, which is a little bit of a weird event, but still, DeBuzz was able to win it, and I would expect him to come out on top. In losers quarters, you're going to have Zomba versus Tweek and Light versus DeBuzz. Now, for Zomba Tweek, it's literally the exact same logic that I used for Zomba versus MKLeo. He won their last 2 encounters. It was at the same 2 events, so pretty much everything applies. I will say I do favor Tweek to beat Zomba more than MKLeo just because I think Tweek is still really good versus Rob. Zomba's style of Rob is just way different than the other Rob players, and also he just has more reps under his belt as of late, so I could see Tweek taking it, but Zomba is definitely still going to be the favorite. And for Light, DeBuzz is... it's a struggle matchup for him for sure. Light is the heavy, heavy favorite going into this one. He hasn't dropped a set to DeBuzz since, I think, quarantine. It's been a really long time now. Isn't it possible that this is the first? No. Is it likely? Also no. And that means our top 4 is going to be Spargo versus Sonics in the winner's side and Light versus Zomba in the loser's side. Now, for Spargo Sonics, I am going to favor Spargo to win this one, even though Sonics has shown incredible proficiency in the Aegis matchup. Aegis is still a pretty good pick into Sonic. I wouldn't say it's a winning matchup, but again, Sonic doesn't have losing matchups, and Spargo's also just incredible at the matchup. And I know it's online results, but a majority of their encounters during coin boxes, Spargo has been taking all of those recent ones, unless I'm just completely blanking. So I'm going to say that Spargo takes that one. Then in the loser side for Light Zomba, this one has also been a really interesting matchup. These players have been trading sets back and forth. I am going to pick Light to win it just because I think Fox can absolutely destroy Rob, especially when Light gets in the zone, and especially with those drag down forward air combos. He started doing them towards the end at Shine, and it is just ridiculously good. If you're able to follow up on the tech chases, and spoiler, Light can follow up on the tech chases, you can absolutely bully Rob. Now, I'm not even saying it's a winning match for Fox. I'd probably have it as even, but also I'm not an expert on either of those characters. But regardless, I'm going to say that Light takes it, but another coin flippy matchup. Adding proof block, I just completely forgot to mention that they do have encounters that have happened since Shine. You have Light taking a Levitational and Zombo winning it twice at Cirque. It's not going to change my answer because, again, still an incredibly coin flippy matchup, but does add a little bit more drama. So in the losers finals, you're going to have Light versus Sonics, and this is an 8-1 record for Light. Historically, he has been incredibly dominant in it. Now, I will give Sonics a little bit of credit. Their last encounter was at MomoCon, and Sonics was able to take a set there, so he's clearly showing a lot of growth in the matchup, but Fox is able to match up with Sonic in the neutral, even though he gets bullied off stage. Sonic bullies everyone off stage, and Light has just shown a ton of proficiency in the matchup, so he's going to be my pick. And in the grand finals, we're going to have Spargo versus Light, and Light is destined to win the first set, just as destined as he is to lose the second one. That's just how it goes between these players. I don't make the rules. Spargo is your Luminosity Makes Moves champion, and I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy. The support has been absolutely unreal as of late. If there's anything I left out, anything I got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub, all that yada yada, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!